and welcome to the second of the Mud Talk series. Tonight we are celebrating a very important collaboration between the Indigenous artists from the APY lands and Mud Australia. It's a bit warm here tonight, so if you see us looking a bit hot, that's why. But we're very excited with the discussion that we're about to have about how this collaboration came about and just what was involved in getting it to the point where you can see these beautiful works now. And I have to tell you, seeing them in person is even more wonderful than seeing them online or seeing them in photographs. Before we do start our chat tonight, I would like to invite Yvonne Weldon, who is the chairperson of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, to provide the welcome to country for us. Yvonne.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers. As was said, my name is Yvonne Weldon. I'm a Wiradjuri woman from Cowra here in New South Wales. I'm from the waters of the Clare, also known as the Lachlan, and of the Murrumbidgee rivers. I am the elected chairperson of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, who are the cultural authority under the Aboriginal Land Rights Act for the land that we are on. I would like to pay my respects to all elders past and present, to all First Nations, and to you and the many nations that are represented online here tonight. It is always a humbling privilege to provide a welcome to country. For me, it is a profound honour and a luxury of time. Time given by you and time of the many warriors that started the traditions for all of us. A welcome isn't just words, it is a reflection of where we are. Not this modern day place, but the continuous link of life, lessons, purpose and nurturing supplies. The boundaries of our traditional owners are not defined by the hand or by the pen, but through the natural landscapes of the earth. The Eora Nation's country covers the Hawkesbury River in the north, the Nepean in the west and the Georges River in the south. On behalf of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, the elders and the members, I welcome everyone to the land of the Gadigal. I acknowledge the Gadigal people whose spirits and ancestors will always remain with these lands, our Mother Earth. Wherever you travel across this beautiful continent of ours, understand you're entering the lands of a nation, a tribe and a clan that have existed here for over 60,000 years. The First Nations of this land are the most diverse, resilient, unique and sustainable people on the planet. We are the oldest living culture of the world. Traditionally across the lands and the waterways, we traded and we shared. Traded and shared for our necessity and not for empires. Our sharing and trading brought our people together, creating our sustainability, encouraging our innovation and keeping our ancient practices alive for our future and for everyone's future. There are many Aboriginal warriors that have crossed this land before all of us, creating pathways before there were any. And to give respect and honour, could you all please pause for a moment to remember the many sacrifices that have been made along the way, the ones we will continue to make, and the ones we shouldn't have to. As you connect, learn and share tonight, tomorrow and beyond, continue to learn from the ancient practices of my people, because across this country there are earth materials that represent peoples and the lands that vary in cultures and in traditions. It does just vary in colours and textures and climates, because these earth byproducts are extensions of rich and sustained connections moulded together, ingrained by the first people's blood, spirit and life, from the elements of the continent of the past to become the products of the futures. So don't lose sight of the important work that still needs to be done to bring my people, your people and all our people together. So don't live regretting what we should have done, but create the legacy of what must be done. In these times of this pandemic, don't let the social distance make us socially absent. We must maintain physical distancing, but not creating barriers to our social connections. So whether it's through your work, your family or your networks, creating an inclusion, an acceptance and a resilience. All of us together can bring about positive changes to multiple generations. We are in this together. Last week it was the Deferred NAIDOC week with the theme Always Was and Always Will Be. So whether you think about the land, our culture or our history, the devastating impacts of past and current times or the resilience of my people, know the answers to every question in this country should always commence with the voice of the first people of this country, because we are the first people of this country. So with that said, let us all draw upon my people's spirits as we continue on our journey. May my people spirits walk with you and guide you as we strive forward for us all. Again, on behalf of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, welcome to Gadigal land. This always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. Lovely welcome. I'd now like to invite the APY Art Collective Shelley Scales to provide an acknowledgement of country.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. I mean, as proud Pidanyara Yankunytjatjara women who live on Kaurna land in Adelaide, it's such an honour to be here on Gadigal land, a part of the Eora Nation. We also have our little slice of APY here in our gallery, so it's always wonderful to have that acknowledgement of country, acknowledgement of our connections to our land, our connections to each other. So thank you so much for having us here on Gadigal land. And as Anangu, we would, acknowledge that this land is continued to be Aboriginal land. While you might not see it in with all the buildings on top, and the core of this country is very much Aboriginal. So it's always great to be here and have a beautiful welcome. So thank you very much, and we acknowledge the incredible vast leadership throughout Australia.
I would like to acknowledge leaders too, past, present and emerging tonight. So welcome everybody, and hello again. Hello to all of you. We have an audience here in the Mud studio. I know many of you are joining us from all around Australia, and we have people as far away as in Russia and in the United States tonight. So a lot of people tuning in, and very much looking forward to hearing your questions. We are going to be taking questions. You can use the chat box to lodge your questions. I'll be checking during the night on my phone, so if you see me looking at my phone, I'm not checking other text messages. I'm actually looking at your questions. So do feel free at any time in the conversation to lodge a question. We'll probably get to them a little bit later on in the evening. What a wonderful partnership we are celebrating here tonight. When I first saw these limited edition works, when I came into the Mud studio last week, I have to tell you, they just took my breath away. They are so beautiful, and the work is just so vibrant and engaging and joyful. So a wonderful thing to be talking about at this time tonight, and hopefully without too many planes going overhead like that one is now. These Mud Talks are designed to bring communities together, and I can't think of a better illustration of that than this collaboration between Mud Australia and the APY Art Centre Collective. We're honoured to have two of the artists here with us tonight. And let me just get underway straight away and introduce our panel. From left to right, Inawintji Williamson is a practising APY artist and a proud bushwoman of Pitjantjatjara and Yankunytjatjara descent. She was born in Ernabella on APY lands in the remote north of South Australia. Ina has been involved with art all her life, both as a practitioner and as a community leader. She's a senior Aboriginal law woman, and she's held many teaching and leadership roles in education and the arts, including teaching traditional song and dance. We had a bit of singing earlier. I hope we'll have some more a little bit later on tonight. And Aboriginal law at the Centre for Aboriginal Studies at the University of Adelaide. Nyunmiti Burton is also a practising artist and a director of the NPY Women's Council, a community body for Anangu women. She's a senior Anangu leader and a law woman. She has many years of experience in community governance. Nyunmiti is also a trained school teacher who has taught in the APY region for many years. She was born in Alice Springs and grew up in Ernabella. Beside her, Shelley Scales is a proud Pitjantjatjara woman from the far west of the APY lands. Shelley is the youngest ever chair of the APY Council, no pressure, Shelley. She's worked with the APY Art Centre Collective in cultural liaison support and spokesperson roles since 2013. And Shelley, you're going to be interpreting tonight, yep? And Skye O'Meara is General Manager of the APY Art Centre Collective. Skye has worked passionately in Indigenous arts for the past 13 years with and for the elders of APY region. And of course, Shelley Simpson, the founder and the creative director of MUD Australia and our host tonight. Shelley founded MUD in 1994 and she's grown her beautiful handmade ceramics into a global business with stores in London, New York, Los Angeles, Melbourne and Sydney. So welcome to all of you. Welcome, welcome. It's very good to have you here. Shelley, these works are just so spectacular, and I know there's been a huge response to them when they were posted online. You instigated this idea, MUD instigated the idea of this collaboration, didn't you?
Yeah, we weren't really sure what we were doing, but we wanted to do something for NAIDOC Week, and we wanted to reach out and start to do something rather than think about doing something. I think COVID gave us a lot of reasons to not do something, but I think we just have been sort of trying to drive through and make some change for our communities.
What were you hoping to achieve by having that kind of collaboration?
We weren't really sure. I mean, this kind of event, this happened quite quickly and it was a little unexpected. We didn't know whether the pieces would make it in one piece because they were sent to Adelaide in a bisque form, which is quite soft. They made it there in one piece, or most of them.
Yes.
Yeah. And then they came back and I was terrified. I actually came in on a Sunday and opened the boxes just in the peace and quiet of the studio to get them in for their final firing in the kilns. And every time I opened, I was with my son, every time I opened something, I'd unwrap it. I was like, oh, thank goodness. Oh my God, this is so beautiful. And putting them in the kilns. And then the next day, opening the kiln and taking them out was just magical. It really has just been more than I expected. Much, much more than I expected.
Why did you choose the APY Art Centre Collective specifically for this?
Well, we wanted this to... We were looking at an organisation that was self-governed, mainly. We didn't want... We knew that by stepping into this arena, we could potentially do it incorrectly. We really needed guidance from people, and I think that these guys have just been extraordinary with helping us through this process.
So you went and said, we want to do something.
We want to do something, and they came back and said, why don't you send us a whole lot of stuff and then we'll paint on it. And it was literally that quick.
When you heard about the idea?
Shelley and her team have been so generous and came in with that with such generosity of what do you think is possible. And when I take that to my board or to the elders, it starts a conversation that can last a very long time with okay, so let's start small. And a big part of the reason why the APY Art Centre Collective exists is to create new opportunities, and our new leadership is very brave, and also I'm working under an incredibly determined board that want to create as many opportunities as possible for young people. So an opportunity like this, when it came up, I remember when we received the email and it was, holy smoke, this is exciting. And then was our initial reaction, and then as soon as we took it to the board, the ladies were just absolutely thrilled, and all sorts of ideas came up. And yeah, it's been wonderful. When Shelley says that she was surprised by the work, when we saw the ladies, I mean, Inawintji wanted the teapot first up, and it was such a wonderful day. But the work speaks for itself. It's very beautiful work, and these are the first things they've made. So it was all a wonderful surprise party.
Inawintji, why did you want the teapot?
Oh, mona nyang banya lai na joda nyado.
Oh, pala na mukul na popular. Walka jeng walka jeng apa ni?
So for Inawintji, as an avid tea drinker and tea lover, for her it was a natural sort of pull to it. And what she really, really loved as well with the pot was all the different curves and the lines and the different directions she could go on it, so which was really interesting for her to sort of follow around and up, and so yeah.
Had you painted a teapot before?
No, before we
Ngayon no before wala dia ngan kuar ko niya pa. Ay dia.
No, so all of the sort of all the different bowls and the teapots and the plates, it's all very new and it was very delicate. So it was a lot of fun for the Inawintji to have a go at everything. So yeah.
And Ina, can you tell us a little bit about the story behind this, the rock hole story that is behind both the teapot and the bowl beside you?
Wa juko la jura. Wa.
Ora break anda?
Ora wan ka de juko la jura. Ya amlan do wan ka ko ju bangai. Ara pre ga juko la bala.
Kabi jura menyang
Juko la ko ju banya. Puling ngarbe. Juko la ko ju bangai na karong ga jawal ba. Mina banya o kala ko la wiaran ko nyang. Na jawa mina ke jangan la bayang na mina jigin yang ko pe manda we ra yang ka mala ma jawal pe jawa ya mina be kapi so mala jon ko be chan pe o par ka ka be kapi ulo ra po jugi.
So for us, the APY lands, just a little bit of a background, is in the far northwest corner of South Australia. It's a land size of 108,000 square kilometres, bigger than Belgium, but it is desert country. And so Ina was saying with the rock hole story, because it's desert country, water is so important to us. It's a very much needed source of living. And so the rock holes, we go to them, we clean them out, it's for the animals, we make sure we look after it. And it's, you know where that next rock hole is, like you'll see sometimes in paintings where they will do the circles for rock holes, because people know in their mind where that next rock hole is, how far away it is, and traditionally that was also put on cave drawings. And so for Ina, she was also explaining about how in creek beds as well is where they used to dig to get water as well. And they used to put this grass, put the grass in between the sand and the water, and you drink that so you're not getting the clay.
So it's like
mud.
a filter.
Yeah, it was a filter. So and that's what they would do if they couldn't find the rock hole. So for her, it was a really important story to do.
Chukula jura now. Ko ju pravi kapi pulkang buir pe. Ka chukula jura nga kapi jura ngari pe. Ka na ura an ko pe ngura ko ju ko walta jura nya ko dijan ko ngoril pe mno. Wir kan ko la nya ko pe chukula nga kapi ngari. Ka pe ringa jura an ko pe ngura ko ju pa.
Yeah, and so after big rains, that's when they would leave to go home, go and visit families and walk across the country, and they would fill it up in the pity, in the wooden bowls, and that's what they would carry until the next stop.
Nyunmiti, this bowl is your bowl, this beautiful big bowl here. Can you tell us a little bit about the story behind this and what it's been like for you painting on these ceramics?
Banyak painting bangun nya we're painting balaning 7 sisters nya. Ka painting nyuram mukol ngola ngayo ko painting nyangani. Sydney nyanga. Win prize panga ngayo ko ngayo nyari ka nyondo mukol ngola nyawa.
Come on, what she said.
So Nyunmiti saying, well, so what she's painted is her painting, the Seven Sisters painting. And if you really want to go and see the painting, well, you need to go to the Art Gallery of New South Wales and see the Win Prize, which is what Nyunmiti's painted here. So Nyunmiti was highly commended in the Win Prize this year and was awarded the Roberts Family Prize. So the Seven Sisters story that she did here, she's done in the bowl as well.
And the Seven Sisters story is, can she tell us a little bit about that?
Seven sisters, kankuro pulkango, malan bedura kanyini, na adu mane. Kawati kurango, wana ning balun janen.
So the Seven Sisters is a very important song lines that we're taught from young age, all of us girls, and it's about the older sister looking after all of her little sisters, and they're being chased by a man across the country, and he's changing into all different things. But as they're travelling, they make the countries, they make the riverbeds, the bullidura, darbaini katoringan. Yeah.
Pulling Ganyananja, Puno, Darling Ganyananja, Karong Ganyananja, Angro Karini.
Yeah, so the sisters taking her, looking after the younger sisters across this country to get away from this, like a no good man. Just go, let's travel along. And then as they're going up to the hills, hiding away from him, coming down, and he's also making these big creek beds and turning into trees to trick them to sit under, turning into a water snake at a rock hole, and you know, all that sort of stuff. And so Nyunmiti's saying it's, you know, that all of these sisters were very beautiful sisters, you know, and they were being followed. But this story of Seven Sisters is everywhere. Every group has their own story of the Seven Sisters travelling, where they went, everywhere, not just in Australia, but also around the world. Everyone's got it, where that country was made. But it was really about that older sister looking after everyone.
Iri dia ngananya kami jalan Indian dia, ngulur bangan bakanya ni kuju bilang ko, nganana iri dia nanya, menjual jalan jangan aja koran jangan baru nyuwir dia kajian baru nindi buka, ngana nanya aja, kamar lah jingo nyonto, kuju bilang apa jangan nanya, uni dah juda nyangan, like kangkung pun.
So for Nyunmiti, the reason why she talks heavily about the older sister, because this is her takeaway from it, is that older sister showing us how to be leaders, how to look after each other, how to be women, how to carry on everything for that next generation. So for us, for Nyunmiti, she's looked at all of the grandmothers, all the older leaders who've had to carry and push things for the next generation.
And get away from troublesome men.
Troublesome men, but also troublesome things, you know. And seeing how they hold themselves and protect everyone, and then having Inawintji to do that for the next generation. Nyunmiti's going to have to do it and then show me so that it goes down generational. So we're looking after and also showing how to protect each other, protect women. So really worrying about that younger population, about that, you know, all the things that the young kids are now seeing.
So it's about leadership. It's
leadership.
A story about leadership, yeah? And female leadership, women's leadership. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Nyunmiti's, it's very much about leadership, and Nyunmiti's also one of our biggest leaders on the lands, as well as being a director on APY Women's Council. She's also on the board of APY Executive Council, so which is a mandatory gender split board. So me and Nyunmiti work together a lot, and then sort of having with the collective, working with all the artists, and making sure that the younger ones have a greater future as well.
When she talked a little bit about what it was like painting the teapot, I just wonder what they both, because they've both been involved in art, for most of their lives, or for a large part of their lives. What was this like compared to the other art work that they've done, the other painting they've done? How did they find the surfaces and... They loved it. What did they love about it? What did you love about it?
So really learning that new technique and being a little bit gentle and fragile with it all. But really for them, that application from painting their jukurpa on a canvas to a ceramic was very organic. But I think they because you had to be gentle and you had to
follow the curves.
But also like doing it in one setting was really nice.
We have a question from Fiona McDonald Cheeseman. She wants to know, when you paint, do you have an idea before you start, or do the patterns unfold as you progress?
Campus kuliah kau panjang cukur banjuda. Kadang kalau kulin, berapa lo jenis panjang. Campus banjur jenis cukur je juda.
So for Inawintji, she's saying that with her, when she's painting, she's very much, it's already in her head because it's her country that she's painting, or her jukurpa, the laws that, and these laws that she's painting is already embedded in her. She's painting what she knows already. As she's saying, it's that you're passed down the knowledge.
The stories.
The stories, the jukurpa, the laws, the customs. So it's been passed down, generational. And so it's very, you've learned from your grandmothers and your mothers, and so it's really, it flows out. So for Nyunmiti, she likes to put what we would say marks down first. So the big brush strokes, so the big sort of circles in the middle and the big thick lines is what she likes to do first, and then steps back and then then fills it in. So we were doing a new technique, having a play with a new technique today.
You were all painting today.
Yeah.
Shelley was painting today.
Shelley was helping. Shelley was helping, and it was Nyunmiti was just saying how she was kept going, and then so what's the process when it's scratched? Sgraffito, so sort of scratching at it, and it got to the side and just a little bit of a crack, but we managed to save it. Shelley managed to save it. Ina's saying she made another teapot. So
what colour is this one, Ina?
Maroon.
Black.
So the grey would, yeah.
So
I
you
had
all
to go
got
hunting
together
for
today.
a teapot today. I didn't think I had to have a teapot for you today. I apologise. So I went hunting through and I found one. It was a bit dry and sitting in the back of a shelf, but we got it working. It's beautiful.
They're very beautiful. Skye, what does this collaboration mean for the APY Arts Collective?
So a big part of what the elders wanted from our core business is impacting the disadvantage of remote Indigenous communities. So APY Lands is the most beautiful place. The countryside is stunning, and Ananu leadership is amazing and inspiring every day of the week. But it's tough. It's a tough environment out there, and the elders spent a lot of time building these art centres. The first art centre was Ernabella Arts, which is the oldest Indigenous owned and governed art centre operating in Australia today, and the Indigenous art market had a boom and things were going really well and growing. I was working out at Jala Arts with Nyunmiti at the time, and the elders started talking about what else is next, what else is possible. And that for me is something that's really exciting. I think we hear about Indigenous creativity and culture all the time, but Indigenous business acumen is not well celebrated in Australia, and desert people are excellent business people looking for opportunities all the time, and they're brave and innovative business people. And so to answer your question, what has started here has been a generous partner came to the table, and which was so warmly accepted by Ananu leaders, and when we left after a short workshop today, again the enthusiasm was palpable.
And it's changing all the time. I mean, this is the first incarnation of this, but who knows where it will go.
No, that's right, and those conversations are happening, and I think that's the thing that's really exciting to be around, and I think that's the thing that will change the lack of opportunities, and that's certainly for me the most exciting thing to be a part of, all the positive things that happen on the ground when a job is created. And this is what this is about. It's about creating jobs and opportunities for young people in things that are meaningful employment, work that people love, and this is what this is about. And also, for anyone that loves visual arts, it's amazing it's amazing being a part of the studio. It's amazing aesthetic, but what it means, the impact on the ground is the most exciting piece.
Who decided which artists? I mean, you've got 500 artists in the APY Collective. Who decided who was going to be doing this?
COVID decided. COVID decided. I mean, the artists are across the lands, which is kind of tough, but it was a good starting point. But look, Ananu worked that out all the time. There's a culturally appropriate pathway, and my board would set the right people through. But this conversation started during lockdown periods, and so the Adelaide artists were thrilled that it was going to be their turn first, and really lent into it. I will say the one thing about this year, it's been a terrible challenge for everyone, and certainly for Aboriginal people and remote Aboriginal people. But what a time for amazing work being produced in the studio. It's been I think artists, I hear from artists, friends and artists all over the place, and it was certainly the case for the artists that I work for, that they just loved escaping the worries of the world in their studio this year more than ever. So.
And I think that's actually a very valid point for across the APY lands with all of the art centres that we work with. The fact that, there wasn't, while it's always a little bit disappointing not being able to go to parties and things, it was really nice to just be in the community and just dedicate time to works and stuff with, so one of our senior women, an artist, Betty Muffler, was on the cover of the September issue of Australia Vogue with her very beautiful work, which is about healing country and healing each other. And my elders are such great leaders in that cultural sense, but also in the fact that the collective was started for an economic future for the young ones. It's saying, our galleries here in Sydney and here in Adelaide are about highlighting young and emerging artists and giving them a greater elevation to be noticed and, you know, have shows and have that exposure. So with COVID, it was like, okay, fine, the world is stopped, but we're going to keep going to work. And, you know, our art centres are very much the heart of the, you know, home, very much like a kitchen is. So it was really like everything just went in there and everyone just, you know, very COVID-friendly sort of things that we had to do, but it was a lot of joy to see the works that came out. Everyone knuckled down. Yeah.
Shelley, Nadine Levy from Adelaide has asked, how do non-Indigenous businesses get involved with an Indigenous business? How do you approach a partnership?
I'm not sure if I'm the right person to be answering the question, because I think we asked the question and we were really lucky that we did it with the right people and, you know, with my amazing team who are great communicators.
I guess part of the answer would be what you described at the beginning, which is that you went to the APY Art Centre Collective and said, we want to do something. We don't know
Yeah.
what it is.
And I think that's the thing, like there's so much wrong in so many quarters in our lives. We have to do something. And I think that for me, while we were sitting in lockdown and looking after our immediate community, and then it made me think about the environment. So we've moved studios in the last 6 weeks and really tried to put into this space a better community for our team, and thinking about the planet and water capture and, you know, that sort of thing, and then reaching out and doing some meaningful things with other communities, you know. What a glorious day I had today. Thank you so much for coming all the way here. I just love it. And I feel like COVID stopped me going to South Australia. I missed out on, I was planning to go down with my daughter to come and spend some time with you, and it will happen. But it's just, what a wonderful day. And it was hot.
It's been really hot here today. Hot for us, ladies, not for you from where you come from, but definitely hot for us in Sydney. But you were describing being outside today with the artists, with everyone, and you were all painting. Can you just share that with everybody, what the afternoon was?
Well, it was really hot, and I guess I wanted to impart some more information, because they this was not a difficult step to do this type of work. And then I thought, you know, working with, while they're here, we could work with green pieces, so unfired pieces, and it's quite tricky. It's very easy to break them. I think we broke more than we painted, but it was, you know, playing with the glazes. It's quite a different process before the piece has been fired. So we were outside and there was some singing and some stories and some laughing. It was really a fantastic day for me. And you were very generous letting me help you with your piece.
So what were you doing today?
I just was given instruction. Paint this one like this. Do this one like this. So just did what I was told. But I think the end result is something very beautiful, and it's in the kiln now. So be fingers crossed the crack doesn't come back. But it's a very exciting project. I'm just thrilled. Yeah.
Nyunmiti, can you tell us a little bit about your home on the APY lands and what the APY lands mean to you?
Archinda eri ngai nyanga be kwari ngai be buka ja archinda palo kitchen ngai ngana barna uda charpa pe mai ngal ko be pin paja pala archinda eri di jangan namba chana ba para re para ngai kitchen ya pala para re para nyara pala jana la nindring jana la ni ngol la archinda jana pala la nindring piro.
And then bregan koranya dan
nyara pala nyinara ngai ko family ano pray kana ono kangalo still kula ngajine ngana planga murona palango kula yanga pio kana pray kana ono kula ngajalbe yanga pray kana training nyara pala nyina mare de ngola ji chuda yara ngola pray kana do wa karinga Art Centre iredi janga ngana na wakaring chiranga.
Oh. And you're up at the party, you are
Mula balango nindiringi. Wapari knyana chana anna balangan kula kanganan kula nindiringi palo. Iredi la anna mula nya banyak maluku banyak nya makasen palo yang palyaning. Mono flora ka palyaning. Nya bal maluku inyo palo yang palyaning. Mula makanya palyaning. Flora ka mula binding. Campus we a cards pangala palyalbe. Christmas cards ngala palyalbe. Mono la flora ko mono wall hanging painda juda nyara pala la wakaring anman. La padiki ko nindiringo. Ano la mula anna pala nindiring. Padik palyanda ko. Mula kan mula ngora oljang palyaning.
Sally, how are you going to remember all this?
I got it. So for Inawintji, she talked about how she was born in Ernabella, and so that's where there was also a school. The Ernabella mission was there, and so she grew up there. And her parents moved to what is now Freegon, and they moved there, but she stayed for school. And then from that, when she moved to Freegon, that's where she got married, she had babies, and she was talking about when the Calgary Arts, the Freegon Art Centre opened, they used to do, instead of paintings, they weren't doing paintings and such yet, they were doing a lot of, she was doing Christmas cards, so floral cards, so drawing on those and stuff. That also were wall hangings, and then learning how to do batiking. So all of these different sort of cultural elements, not cultural, crafty elements were being done first. And
kabalang wabali nganam crop from nyuana la balan. Ka people pika ka biyang ngali nyara balang wagare ngai chef chen culture art center ko nyining nyara balal. Na nindiringi.
So, I mean, Inawintji had that position of the chairperson of Calgary Arts for a long time, and you know, she moved to Adelaide for health reasons. But Calgary is a beautiful, beautiful art centre with lots of incredible artists that come out of it. You know,
And she's moved to Adelaide for dialysis. Yes.
Yeah.
What's it like?
2007.
2007.
And that's because she can't get dialysis.
So at that
home.
stage, a dialysis centre wasn't in APY. We only opened the dialysis centre last year, which my elders, Nyunmiti and the ladies, were all very, very generous and donated paintings to raise the funds for the dialysis centre. So we all broke down in tears when we got over the mark that we needed to.
So is Nyunmiti still living? Is Inawintji still living in Adelaide? Yeah.
13 years.
13 years.
Still in Thailand.
And people are from the gallery go to.
Gallery ngana banyak. Anang udah pijang banyak. Art lara tanti nyanganya. Tanti kada tananti. Anang udah biang mun palang palanya wangkangi. Palandi yang ne kalau pukula ngana umla wangkangi borat la kampalang palmana ngana palang mel. Nya banyak APY kalau nya yang ngana banyak. Ngana pukula ngana pika dari jodoh nya wan kara. Mula pukula ringi. Wah karing jadi banyak ngana na. Aldu ya jodoh nya cukup juga lah mancet be ngana banyak cinta lagi dengan mana cukup. Put na jadi berapa mula cukup mana jauh ya mula pukula ringi. Wah karira art coloring ka. Paint palya kuju wan kara palya ngana pukula ringi. Mana jauh mana cinta jang banyak art coloring. Jangan Christmas jangan laki ringi wirat mula pukula ringi mana mana. Pahala biar mengana wah karing. Mula pukula ringi nyara belum.
So for Inawintji, she was talking about when she moved to Adelaide, you know, it was a long time, and you know, there was always this rumour that there was going to be an APY studio or an art centre somewhere, always rumours. And then there was after we opened our Sydney gallery 2 years ago. Gosh. And then it was a very much a push. Well, it was like, hello, Adelaide needs one. Like, and all of the elders were on the land saying, we need to look after our family who've had to move. And so it was like, okay, we've got to get this happening, And for Inawintji and all the ladies that had already lived in Adelaide, it was like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. We can get a little bit of income because they haven't been able to work and they're just on the government benefits, and also very bored life of going to medical appointments and home, you know, that cycle over and over again. And so as having an art studio in Adelaide where they had a little slice of APY, could see each other, could spend that time with each other, and also make a little bit of income for each other, and also for Christmas. So maybe buy some more paintings, everyone online. And here too.
We have a few more questions. We have a question from Justine Gray. She's asked if there's a lot of interest among young women in the community in continuing this kind of work.
Yeah. I mean, we work with our art centres. It's a real source of income for a lot of young people. It's also a place where lots of cross-generational teachings happen. For Nyunmiti and, you know, all of our elders, it's really important to have the young people a part of it. We've, you know, young Zachariah Fielding, who's following in his father's footsteps with his artistic practice. There's Josina Pumina, who is a young artist whose grandmother, whose auntie won the Win Prize a few years ago. So there's lots of young women, and we're always looking for different projects and different avenues for our young artists as well. But definitely, I mean, that's what the galleries were bought for as well.
I think the other thing is that there wasn't as many young women in this project because the Adelaide studio was established for artists like Inawintji that are off country for medical treatment. So the young ones really are in community. And the feedback that I've had from Nyunmiti's niece, Paula, made some beautiful bowls, and she was talking one day about how this could be the perfect thing for new mums who can't paint a 6-hour day, but can find a space when the baby's sleeping to get a vessel done. So those kind of conversations make us really hopeful that once, you know, we've tested it here in Adelaide, and hopefully once we get to the next chapter of this, with including the artists from the APY lands, it'll be a great opportunity for the young artists, which is what the APY Art Centre Collective does. So.
Were you surprised? I mean, I'd ask all of you this. Were you surprised by what you saw?
Yeah, I was saying to Shelley, like you anticipate, like we were nervous because the mud product is so beautiful, and we're sitting there doing that. There's going to be some duds because there has to be.
Were the ladies nervous?
Yeah.
Were the artists nervous?
Not nervous. So Skye's being nervous.
Oh.
The ladies not being nervous. So Inawintji just said, we're artists. We know what we're doing. We're not nervous.
Were they surprised? Were they surprised with what they saw with other people's work?
Pardon?
Were they surprised with what they saw with other people's? Were you surprised by some of the work you saw?
Oh, wow, you were surprised. You were surprised for Muru Muru. There was one lady that we call, her name is Yarraji Heffernan, but all the ladies call her Muru Muru, which is Shorty, and she is a short but a fierce presence.
Shorter than me.
In the studio, and she did that blue. She did the big blue bowl, and as one of her first ones, and all of the ladies were doing and she was really pleased and was saying it was the best thing I've ever made, and all the other ladies were cheering for her. So there was we were a bit surprised for some of the ladies' works. Now we're not, just me.
Yang aja lah bennya iya ko jo bangka jena kari.
Oh,
Na yeri de jabun do wiari.
oh,
Na ya ko ari ja. Ko ari bennya ko la wiari ko la waga ko anani. Ka ngana nya ja waga ko ninti jura nyene nyutu ngana na waga ri. Airo ne teacher nyana ja nu wiari ko na waga ko jo bangka waga ri. Nyanga bal. Art nyanga campus bangka.
So this, you're really saying, this is a different year. It's a new year where you're trying to find, we've all very working women, we go from one thing to the next, and, she went from teaching to her art. And so for her, it's, having that avenue for the young ones to have a space.
Nindi puka jurang ko waka ko nindi puka jurang ko wani kari. Ngana mama ko ngonjo ko waka ko nindi ko. Ka ko ari ngana na bari palu bembere ni waka ko nindi joda. La malaja joda nindi ni. Ayo ngayo ko puleri nindi ni. Uwan karang.
Yeah, so for her niece, that's said that where the granddaughter that said, this would be really good for young mums, having those roads, testing these roads out so that the young ones can follow through, or the emerging artists can follow through and have a little bit of an income come through is really amazing.
Ngana na nyaja iwara benya ma palyani ka mala chura ngona na wana ni ka mala je chichi chura pulkare ngani tunu waga ko to palyani ka chichi chura ko nya
Happy train, but
ngana na palyano ka palo jana be palyani jana ba chichi chura ngolo ko palyani.
So as a family business that Mud is, it was such a joy to see the different family connections today. Nyunmiti is saying it's also really great to have that, knowing that there's a space that the young ones in the next generation and the next generation can follow through on a new road and on a new pathway.
Ngana ba manta palo jana ngana na la ngani. Ngana na la kanyanga kala ja.
So everything
binding campus ko di balandi. Rin men kara bagal.
So Nyunmiti is saying that when they're painting their canvases, that jukurba, that law and the customs that we have, which is in our head and our hearts, that's what we're putting on our canvases. But for her, she's like, we also put it on our ceramics as well.
There's a question here from Tian Luong, who's asked, what can we do to learn more about and appreciate Indigenous art?
I suppose for me, being across quite a lot of different things, there's that having a great understanding. So trying to ask the questions, educate yourself. I mean, where you're living, learn about that country as well. There's a lot of resources and a lot of Aboriginal communities and groups, but I think it's really important for people to start looking locally.
And ask questions. I remember Adam Good saying that. Just ask questions.
Yeah. So having that, learning about your local community and seeing how you can engage and all of, and supporting Aboriginal organisations, Aboriginal run and owned organisations. I mean, that's what we are. I will plug as much as I can always. Our galleries, this is 80% returns back to the artists, so that's supporting food on the ground for a family. So it's really about going and looking and finding Aboriginal owned and run businesses where you can find and support that business and that artist. We have to protect our communities. I mean, APY is also very much shut off from the world. We've just gone into COVID lockdown again. But I would say ask the questions, learn a little bit more, ask, and ask. Don't be afraid. I think everyone's gotten into this thing of being really afraid.
Because they might get something wrong instead of just finding out stuff.
That's right. Yeah. We call it the PC paralysis. That means that nothing changes because people get. The other thing is, I think, and we find people as a non-Indigenous woman finding people in the gallery with its you know, it can be fun. The ladies have got the ladies have got such a great sense of humour, but also when we talk about learning to appreciate Indigenous art and culture, think how you can give back. It's not just for you or for your education. It's how you can contribute and grow your relationships and grow your contribution, because Indigenous culture is such an important part of our national culture. We can't sit there as a lazy audience waiting for Aboriginal people to share with us. We have to find, and that's what this project with Shelley, why it was so wonderful, is that Shelley came to us and be brave in your relationships with Aboriginal people and operate with a level of trust, and great things will happen. And this project is an example of that, I think.
You mentioned, Sally, that 80% of the money that's raised by the sale of these pieces goes to the artists. Where does the other 20% go?
So the APY Art Centre Collective, I don't know. I mean, we don't get a lot of government funds, and so for us, we need to. That's an operational cost for us. So, you know, looking after the ladies, the materials, and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we work. It's pretty much a joke how much we get from state and federal government compared to a lot of other arts organisations.
But I think it's made us hungry. It's made us hungry,
we're
and
lean and mean.
And I think the other thing is that it's not. We want to be a successful, sustainable. We want to be a successful, sustainable business. And one of the targets that Elders set was to challenge some of the existing commission structures within the gallery environment. So all of the paintings and the products see an 80% return back to community. And I think these are the kind of conversations where Shelley and Matt have been so open to hearing about what the Elders want from the business, how they operate, and so it's not about being a lazy non-Indigenous audience member and saying, oh, isn't it beautiful, isn't it interesting? It's really participating, understanding what Indigenous elders are trying to achieve with what they're doing, and how is there a role for me in this? Is there a way that I can support it? And Shelley and her team came to the table, and it's just been really, really fun, but with some really terrific outcomes.
We're going to have to wrap up soon, but before we do, just quickly, Shelley, why works of art and not pieces you can use?
I just think the pieces deserve. Well, I actually struggle with the teapot. I struggle with the teapot. I know you love the teapot, but I wanted it to be. I think they are pieces. They're never meant to be used. They deserve to be respected, and they're the stories that are being respected. I don't want somebody to throw a salad in there. Yeah. You know. And maybe that will happen, but.
It's about the glazes.
Yeah.
The glazes take away from the impact.
Yeah, I think the impact is. I love a matte surface. I think it's a beautiful thing. They're incredibly strong. I mean, you look at the pieces behind over there as well. Every colour in a matte sense works. It's a stronger story than if it's got a shine and a gloss to it.
And will this be ongoing, this partnership?
I hope so.
We hope so.
That sounds like a good.
No, it's been such a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to going to visit Nyunmiti. Yeah. You invited me today, so I'm coming.
So Nyunmiti might come back and do an artist in residence at Mud.
That'd be good. That'd be great. Yeah. So both Nyunmiti and Inawintji want to keep going with this?
I think we all want to keep going. I had my first go at doing this. I think, so the ladies are saying everyone wants to keep going. What do you mean? Yeah. Let's go.
We have to...
I'm sorry, Nyunmiti's just asked, can we take some back with us?
Some of the raw pieces.
You can't. We'll send them down to you. We'll send them down.
Just imagine. Finally, we have to wrap up, but Tess Lloyd has said that she heard the artists sing while they paint. Would they sing tonight And we're finishing now, so I'll thank you all now. Would the ladies sing us out for the evening?
Sino ko nila in ka in ma yar ng popular follow niya family ben follow ya wa kari popular janjun man ko in men ko nyanga maliki ja judang ora pararing ngo pitang katung ngan char kaya na katung ngo pitang ngan manda ko char ko la popular in drain kala.
So Inawintji is just saying that first she would like to say thank you so much to Shelley, her family, her team. Thank you to the audience. Thank you to the audience that's online, the ones that are at the top of the world, top of the countries in Russia, everyone watching online. You're watching us from up there, we're down here. But she's very happy and thankful that everyone's tuned in, and so she's going to go.
There you go.
In ma ko jella ren ka. Pa njire be nya ko jiang ko andi be ngola la jongo ren.
Ngana nyana.
No ba ro ngura ngan lang bi jaw.
Oh, so Nyunmiti is saying the ones that are online will have to come and visit as well and do another one, do another tour.
And will they sing for us now?
En ka nyimbar mpa.
Yeah?
Ngula la nyanga ni balo njana nya.
She's saying we'll see you.
In ma nyango nyanga ni. Ngula bi ngana. In ma ngula len kai. Ko ni balo njana nya olo ngamun kara ma kari ni. Ngula wal ko do.
Oh wala la nyanga we are ngani pate ngani.
Pala wan ka ngo jen ndef.
Oh wala la en karo ara nden ngai le ayen nang ro ngai.
They're running out.
Ngale le wan ka. Wan karon dangayaron ko widiranda kadirin ko karalo wajah kanyira wan karon dangayaron ko Jongoring kukulangola nyaraci sorakoro Jongoring kukulangola nyaraci
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to have to wind up now. We can keep singing. We can keep singing here, but I'm going to say goodnight to everybody. And a big thank you to all of you, Inawintji, to Nyunmiti, to Sally, Skye, and to Shelley. Thank you very much. That is it for tonight, but keep your eyes open for the next Mud Talk. Good night.